Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadi Tamastu Ma Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And we'll share the screen here. Share February 23rd in Asia. And the first topic is a continuation, Hindu Tools for Success. Part 4 from 2009, Kuala Lumpur. This is an interesting one. Next section of our talk looks at the practice of giving as a tool for success. It's based on concepts presented in Chapter 6 of Gurudeva's Living with Shiva, which describe the niyama, or religion's observance of dana. Same material is presented in the separate book, Yoga's Forgotten Foundation. And there's nothing in this presentation on contentment. It's just the title of the chapter in Living with Shiva. So we're just doing giving. Dana is built into all aspects of Hindu life. Giving to the holy man, to the astrologer, to the teacher. Giving dakshina to a swami or a Satguru for his support. Over and above all giving to his institution. There is a verse in the Tirukural that delineates the 5 aspects of the family man's duty to give. The foremost duty of family life is to serve duly these 5: God, guests, kindred, ancestors, and oneself. So in material thinking, we put oneself first. Religious thinking, we put oneself last. Before us comes God, guests, kindred, ancestors, and oneself. Duty of giving is one that is understood by all Hindus. However, the idea that the practice of giving can be a powerful tool for attracting financial abundance is an idea that many Hindus do not have in mind. So, first question for you. How do we maximize the wealth we have at the end of our life? Monthly savings? Stock market? How do we maximize the wealth we have at the end of our life? The Tirukural in his chapter on hospitality gives us important insights into giving. Here are 2 key verses. If a man cares daily for those who come to him, his life will never suffer the grievous ruin of poverty. And second, those who never sacrifice to care for guests will later lament. We hoarded wealth, estranged ourselves, now none will care for us. Materialistic thinking leads to the conclusion that if we hoard all the wealth we get, we will end up with more wealth at the end of life. Logical. Then if we use a portion of it every day to care for guests that come to our house. Tirukural is saying the opposite. If you use wealth to care for guests, at the end of life you will end up with more wealth than if you hoarded it. Why is that? Or how is that possible? Why is this? It is because of the law of karma. If we give generously to others, through the law of karma, we will attract more wealth in this and future lives. The merit we earn through giving to others comes back to us through attracting abundance in the future. Following phrase found in the astrological chart of some individuals reflects this understanding. This is an intelligent devotee born to get money effortlessly. Why? Due to past life merit. There's an interesting Tamil word that relates to this idea. It is punyavan. It has the double meaning of person of great religious merit and a lucky person. Clearly, our ability to attract financial abundance is directly related to the amount of religious merit we have accrued through our previous good deeds. Third verse from the Tirukra adds another aspect to giving. It reads, charity's merit cannot be measured by gifts given. It is measured by measuring the receiver's merits. How would you explain that statement? Again, this is counter to common thinking. If we give 100 ringgits, you would think it would automatically create more merit than giving only 50 ringgits. Oh, ringgits, because this was given in Malaysia. However, the variable we are overlooking is the merit of the receiver. If we give to a man of great spiritual attainment versus a man of none, that adds a good deal of merit to the action beyond that from the amount being given. Gurudeva comments on this concept. Karma is an unfailing natural law, simply explained by this example. Give a beggar 10 rupees, you are not giving, you are investing in your future. Somehow 20 rupees will find its way back to you. He has given you the opportunity to give. When we give expecting to receive, the law will still work, but if we give 10 rupees, we get back 10 rupees. Unselfish giving doubles the return. Giving to a temple is different again. Every 10 rupees given brings back 100 rupees in return. God pays a better interest. Like that. Giving is an investment in the future. It is not parting with something. So the merit of the receiver is important. There is an informative story of giving to God from the tradition of the Nakarattar Chediyars at Palani Hills Temple that is well documented in the Ola-leaf manuscripts of the temple. The story begins with the arrival in Palani in about the year 1600 of Kumarappan, a Nakarattar salt trader from Chettinad. According to these manuscripts, Kumarappan was the first Nakarattar to establish trade in the salt-deficient region of Palani. He stayed in the house of the Palani temple priest and operated his business in the street outside the priest's house. From the beginning, he marked up his margin of profit by 1/8 and gave the markup as an offering in Mahimai to the deity of Palani temple, Lord Velayudha. Mahimai, also called Mahamai, is a Tamil word meaning a donation to charity consisting of a fixed percentage of profit, income, or of a crop grown. In the example of Kumarappan, if his regular profit on a transaction was, say, 100 rupees, he would add 12.5 rupees to the price he charged, which is 1/8, and donate that amount to the Palani Hills Temple. Story continues that food paid for by Kumarappan's Mahimai was prepared by the priest's wife and offered to the deity by the priest. Afterwards, it was distributed as prasadam, first to the priest and then to Kumarappan, his employees, and local mendicants. In addition, Kumarappan paid the priest and his wife each a small sum of money. There are some informative statements about dana in the Hindu Encyclopedia by Swami Harshananda. He states that giving is extolled in the Dharma Shastras as a sacred act that helps one to earn religious merit as well as to conquer one's greedy nature. These Shastras give as a general guideline for giving 10% of earnings as an appropriate maximum. There is a clear verse on this in the sutras from the founder of the BAPS Swaminarayan Fellowship from Gujarat, a group we know well. It was written some 200 years ago by Bhagwan Swaminarayan and states, My disciples shall give in donation 1/10 of their income, or food grains if that be their agricultural income, in the service of Lord Krishna. How can we determine how much our family can afford to give to religious endeavors? One guideline from this source comes from the Dharma Shastras, which caution that a householder should never give gifts beyond his means and should not make his family and dependents suffer on account of it. Second guideline comes from the Tilkarol verse, which states, small income is no cause for failure, provided expenditures do not exceed it. Useful way to acquire an understanding of the extent of one's means to give is to create, if you don't have one already, a detailed monthly household budget, showing income in all the major categories of expense, such as rent or mortgage, transportation, food, clothing, various other categories, and, of course, religious giving. No matter if your income is small or large, a valid approach is to start with a modest donation to your favorite religious institution that easily fits into your household budget. As that regular monthly giving accrues increasing merit, which in turn attracts more financial abundance into your life, you will be able to periodically increase the amount of your religious donations up to the ideal of 10%. Of course, some individuals, such as those who are self-employed, as illustrated by our salt merchant, Kumarappan, or those who are single, may have the ability to give more than 10%. The best way to approach religious giving is to make it the first expense. In other words, when you receive a check from your employer, the first use of the income should be to make the religious donation. This has a number of advantages. We do not forget to do it. We do not spend that money on ourselves by mistake and therefore are unable to give to religion this month. We are less inclined to spend part of it on frivolous items that we don't really need because we have made the religious donation first. Many Hindus do not give in a systematic way to the Hindu institution they support, such as a local temple. Instead, they wait for the temple to call them and ask for a donation, which they willingly give when asked. Compare this to setting aside money in a retirement account. How many of us would rely on our investment manager to call us to remind us to send in funds for our retirement account? Probably none. The point is clear. We would definitely be regular on our own in making monthly retirement savings. Similarly, it is beneficial to both us and the institution we support to be as regular in our charitable giving as we are in our retirement savings. We benefit as we don't miss certain months and therefore miss the merit from that giving, and the institution benefits in receiving a more regular stream of income. In conclusion, regular giving to religious institutions to God is, of course, a duty of all Hindus. However, when done regularly and generously through the law of karma, the abundance of merit we earn creates for us greater financial abundance in this and future lives. Okay, doing good on time. Next section of our talk looks at a very useful tool for success. Learning from our mistakes. Based on a concept presented in chapter 37, Raising Children as Good Hindus. What are 3 common reactions to making a mistake? Is the question to you. This isn't what we should do necessarily, it's just what people in general do. After making a major mistake, there are 3 common reactions. Some individuals thoughtlessly repeat the same mistakes over and over again without even much awareness that they are doing so. Not good. Others, when they make a major blunder, become totally absorbed in self-criticism and despondency and never get around to reflecting on how to avoid making the same mistake again. I think they're supposed to be perfect. I like to say, if someone was perfect, they wouldn't have been born in the first place. So we all have imperfections. Everybody makes blunders, but only the spiritually inclined can turn them into knowledge and progress. So that's learning from the mistake. So that's the one we want. What are some of the benefits of responding to a major error by figuring out how not to repeat it rather than wallowing in self-doubt and self-deprecation? If we allow ourselves to remain stuck in a negative state of mind, it is unlikely we will figure out a way to avoid repeating the same mistake again. Therefore, we are allowing ourselves to remain stuck in a cycle of experience and are thus not making the spiritual progress we could if we found a way to avoid repeating the error again. Clearly, the benefit is that we will move forward spiritually into a new set of challenges and experiences. Important insights into the soul's maturing process can be gained by looking at the 3 Shaktis of God Shiva, which are also 3 powers of the soul. Should have asked you a question. What are they in Sanskrit and English? 3 powers, 3 Shaktis. First one, Icha, the power of desire. Kriya, the power of action. And Jnana, the power of wisdom. We first have a desire, and when the desire becomes strong enough, we act. In young souls, the action may be ill-conceived, even against Dharma. For example, a man wants a computer, so he steals one. Money is needed, so he robs a bank. Soul is often caught up in repeating a cycle of similar experiences, moving back and forth from desire to action, till the needed lesson is learned. In the case of the adharmic action of stealing, eventually he will learn the lesson that this is not the best way to acquire possessions. The lesson is impressed by repeated facing of the consequences of stealing, which is being arrested and serving time in jail. There's also the karmic consequence of being stolen from. This learning is the Jnana Shakti, wisdom causing his behavior to improve. For all of mankind, no matter where one is on the path, spiritual advancement comes from improving one's behavior. Said another way, it comes from learning from one's mistakes. Unfortunately, this process is often inhibited by the idea that somehow we are not supposed to make mistakes. The mistakes are bad. Far too many children grow up being scolded for their mistakes by parents. Teachers ridicule students when they make mistakes. Supervisors yell at workers when they make a mistake. No wonder many adults feel terrible when they make a mistake. To spiritually benefit from our mistakes, we need a new attitude toward them. Gurudeva described mistakes as wonderful opportunities to learn. Parents and caretakers can teach children that making mistakes is not bad. Everyone makes mistakes, it is natural, and simply shows we do not understand something about the matter at hand, or we have been inattentive. Mistakes are wonderful opportunities to learn. The story I give to impress this point is of a young family. The wife is at home taking care of the 5-year-old, and the 5-year-old makes some horrendous mistake, almost burns the house down. So the wife calls her husband and says, "You will be so happy to hear the news. Our son almost burned the house down. Isn't this wonderful? He has such a great opportunity to learn an important lesson, and I wanted you to think about it on your way home. What lesson do we need to teach him so that he does not make this mistake again?" Of course, you all get the point, which is unfortunately most parents don't react that way. Usually punishment. Last sentence is cut off here. Usually punishment is the only response, but punishment misses the point if it does not incorporate a teaching that will help the child learn how not to repeat the mistake. The important point is that the child does not know something. Otherwise, he would never have made the mistake. There's some knowledge the child is missing, and the parents need to figure out what that knowledge is. In other words, it is fine to discipline the child in a respectful, reasonable way, but it has to be done without emotion and coupled with trying to help the child not repeat the mistake through figuring out what the child needs to learn. And what are the 4 progressive stages of handling a mistake? This is my pub desk, 4 progressive stages. This is what we want to do. 4 progressive stages that naturally ensue when one makes a mistake. A common first reaction to having made a mistake is to become upset, to become fretful or angry about it, or if it is a serious mistake, to become deeply burdened and even depressed. That is a normal first reaction, but if it is our only reaction, it is not enough for those seeking to advance themselves spiritually. To progress, we need to cope with the emotional reaction to the action and move on to the learning stage. So we have to become unupset. That's a good second reaction to a mistake, is to think clearly about what happened, why it occurred, and find a way to not repeat the mistake in the future. Perhaps we were not being careful enough. Simply resolving to be more circumspect next time will prevent the problem from recurring. Perhaps we lack some important knowledge, and now we have that knowledge, which we can simply resolve to use next time. Perhaps we created unintended consequences that caused significant problems to ourselves or others. Now that we are aware of the possibility of these consequences, we certainly won't repeat the action. And a few years ago, from 2009, a group of teenagers in Australia started a small forest fire in which several innocent people were seriously burned. They were caught, and as part of their discipline, the judge directed them to visit the victims in the hospital to see the consequences of their actions. This impressed them so deeply that they were overcome with regret and pledged to never vandalize again. So unintended consequence. They didn't want to hurt anyone. Those who were striving to live a spiritual life were self-reflective and learned quickly from their blunders. In fact, one way to tell a young soul from an old soul is to observe how quickly he cognizes his error and learns not to repeat the same mistake. Quite often I get an email from someone who made a mistake in which he or she laments, "Oh, I should not have done this." Of course, belaboring one's remorse is just getting stuck at the first level of reaction. I encourage such persons to move on to the second level by not repeating, "I should not have done this," but affirming, "I won't do it again." That is the response we are striving for, not to simply feel sorry that we made a mistake, but to commit to not making it again, or at least trying not to make it again. Taking that step is exercising the power of self-reflection, which is how we progress on the spiritual path, because the spiritual path is a series of experiences offering many opportunities to falter. If we can study our errors and learn to not repeat them, then we turn them into new growth and progress. If we constantly make the same mistakes over and over and over again without improvement, we remain in a rut and delay our progress. A third remedy may be needed if our misstep involved other people. Perhaps we have hurt someone's feelings or created a strain between us. A direct apology can fix this if we know the person well. If we are not close enough to the individual to be able to apologize, a generous act can often adjust the flow of feelings back into our harmonious condition. For example, hold a small dinner party and include the person among the invited guests. A fourth remedy may be needed in cases of major misdeeds. For example, if we did something that was dishonest, even if we're resolved to not repeat the misdeed and apologize to those involved, we may still feel guilty about the transgression. By performing some form of penance, prayaschitta, we can rid ourselves of the burden of feeling bad about what we have done. How do you know you need to do penance? Because you have done the first 3 stages and you still feel burdened. Typical forms of penance are fasting, carrying kavadi for Lord Murugan, performing 108 prostrations before the deity, or doing walking prostrations up a sacred path or around a temple. These, of course, are too severe for younger children, but they can do simpler penances, such as skipping dessert one meal or renouncing a favorite TV program one night. How do we get the most benefit out of penance, such as carrying kavadi? That's the question to you. Excuse me. To get the most benefit out of penance, such as carrying kavadi during Thaipusam festival, we suggest that you have in mind specific misdeeds you regret having done, as well as promise the deity you will try your best not to repeat that misdeed again. So that's the suggestion. And our second topic, character building from our workbook. Non-stealing is the 37th character quality. How would you define non-stealing? See what the workbook says. Non-stealing means not taking the property of others without right or permission. I observe it by avoiding theft and not allowing myself to covet the things others have. The opposite is stealing. And our Gurudeva quotes, the third yama is asteya, neither stealing nor coveting nor entering into debt, meaning that you're not repaying on time, which is a form of stealing. Coveting is desiring things that are not your own. Coveting leads to jealousy and it leads to stealing. The first impulse towards stealing is coveting, wanting. If you can control the impulse to covet, then you will not steal. Coveting is mental stealing. Interesting idea. So coveting is desiring things that are not your own. Of course, stealing must never ever happen. Even a penny, a peso, a rupee, a lira, or a yen should not be misappropriated or stolen. Defaulting on debts is also a form of stealing. That's that idea of debt is a form of stealing, not if it's paid on time. Reflection. Take a moment to identify a few ways in which you could improve in non-stealing. This includes the idea of not coveting what others have that you don't have. Our third topic, as usual, is quotes from Yoga Swami's words of our master. With one hand you must take hold of God, with the other you must hold on to the world. Interesting. What does that mean to you? Both hands on the world means we are so involved in the world that we are not performing any religious practices. Clearly not the ideal. Both hands on God is only appropriate for monks. For those who aren't monks, it would mean you are not taking your duties in the world seriously enough. So one hand on each is what everyone who's not a monk should do. Peace, self-searching, and the company of devotees give happiness. What does that mean to you? Yoga Swami is adding the companions we keep are an important aspect of making spiritual progress. In other words, we don't normally think about that, Or many people don't normally think about that. They think just what they do is what creates the spiritual progress. But Yoga Swami is saying also the people you associate with impact your spiritual progress, and you want to associate with people that are religious, just like you. Then that enhances your practices, doesn't detract from them. Do not be in a hurry. Do not be agitated. Wonder what he would have said today. We're so much more in a hurry than we were back in his lifetime. Don't be frantic. What does that mean to you? Don't be in a hurry. Don't be agitated. My thought, sometimes what we have to do requires us to be in a hurry, and that is okay. But when we don't have to be in a hurry, slow down. That helps us from becoming unnecessarily agitated. So agitation can be directly caused by always being in a hurry. Physically, we're in a hurry and the mind becomes agitated. So don't be in a hurry if you don't need to be. And that concludes the presentation. Thank you very much. Oh.